Premier, congratulations on time well served, and we look forward to covering you until the new leader comes into place. Can you speak to the timing here? Why make the decision now, considering how big these meetings are coming up in 2 weeks, rather than wait until potentially the fall?
Well, I had come to the conclusion that I could not seek re-election. I was asked a question by Gregor Craigie, a host of a CBC radio program, last Friday, and I could not answer in any way other than I would have more to say today. I knew that we had a cabinet retreat. I knew that it was an opportunity for us to go into the issues that I talked about and many others, preparing budget 2023. And also, it was a chance to talk to my caucus colleagues. We had a retreat on Friday. I had advised them this afternoon of my decision, but there's no time like the present. I want to be straightforward with my colleagues across the country. Despite our political differences, we have been a uniform group, despite changes by elections, of course, in provinces since I've been at the table. But I know that my colleagues have full confidence in me to continue to discharge my responsibilities, and I have every intention of holding the federal government to the commitments that the Prime Minister made to me directly and personally, as well as to my colleagues. We need to sit down and figure this out. British Columbians are counting on that. Albertans are counting on that. Canadians across the country are counting on that. And I have every intention to carry forward. And I know that I'll have the full support of my provincial premiers across the country.
Richard, do you have a follow-up?
You'll obviously serve until the new leader comes into place, but getting things done between now and then may be hard. Are you worried you're walking away here from some things that you wanted to accomplish that you had promised? And you mentioned the cancer, you mentioned tiring at the end of the day. Is that ultimately what happened here? Was doing the job was just becoming too difficult?
I can always count on you, Richard, for one follow-up that's 3 questions, and I say that warmly. I don't mean anything by that. I obviously the treatment was rigorous, and I was, in my enthusiasm to get back to work, I've confessed this in other interviews. I probably got back a bit earlier than I should have, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm going to be 63 this summer, and I've been involved in public life, working in government for 36 years. I've been an MLA for 17. I've been leader of the NDP for 8 and premier for 5. And I don't want to sound like a resume here, but if you add all that up, it's a lot of intensity. My nature is to dive in fully to the tasks before me. And my spouse and I just felt that it was time that I pass on to another generation. I've talked about the need for generational change in our politics, not just within the NDP, but indeed within all of our political institutions. We need to make space for the next generation to bring forward their ideas and their energy to take on the tasks. So for me, I had every intention of carrying on and prosecuting the next election. That was my plan. I love the work, but the cancer diagnosis and the subsequent surgery and treatment was rigorous. Again, I am cancer-free, and I have to now reflect on what do I do with the summers I have ahead of me. And I will give everything I have until there's a replacement, and people who know me understand that I'm genuine when I say that.
Next question is from Rob Shaw, Check News.
Hi, Premier. I'm sorry to hear that you're going. I was wondering if you zero in.
I'm sorry, Rob, you broke up there. Rob, you want to start that again?
Okay, sorry.
I didn't hear you.
I was wondering if you could zero in a bit more on when you made the decision. Was there a particular time, day? Did you at a particular you come to this conclusion and be at peace with what you were about to announce to everyone?
Well, I was just in Vernon and Kelowna, meeting with New Democrats in our Forward Convention, which was filled with young people, diverse people, seniors, elders that have been in the NDP for longer than me. And it was a powerful moment for me, but I had made my decision when Ellie and I were walking on the beach laughing and reflecting on how many beaches we'd walked on in our lives. We've lived in Australia, we've lived in Ontario, we've had the blessing of living on Vancouver Island since my home since 1992, and it was just a moment where we said, let's do more of this and less of that, quite frankly. And it was a difficult decision. I do love the work, and I love my colleagues, and it's very rare. I've been a student of history, as many of you know, and it's rare for a political leader to have the opportunity to say, I think it's time for someone else, without it being a less comfortable moment. So the timing was right. My health circumstances dictated it, and it was watching the otters, quite frankly. We were at Otter Point. If those who want to get out their maps and check out Otter Point on Vancouver Island, as you're traveling around this summer, I recommend coming to Langford-Juan-de-Fuca. Some beautiful opportunities to relax. And watching the otters playing just offshore by the hour reminded me that doing a little bit more playing, a little bit less working is probably not a bad idea.
Rob, do you have a follow-up?
Sure. You've been premier for fires. You were in a minority for part of that. Then COVID took over the agenda. Do you feel, as you're leaving, that you were able to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? You've been rolling from wildfires to floods to COVID. Were you able to do what you wanted to do when you always thought of being premier?
Well, I don't want to promote your book, Rob, but you wrote a book, you and Richard, about how we came to government, and it was an extraordinary event, which I think has kind of highlighted a whole host of other extraordinary events that would have been what we've experienced as a community, as a province over the past 5 years. I've always been of the view that events are what governments are about. You have your plan, you have the objectives you want to realize, but your number one job is to be attentive and listening to what people are saying, what issues are affecting their lives, and responding to them. So we've been a responsive government. We've been a government that had an agenda when we arrived, that was built in my time over 12 years in opposition, engaging with the public on issues that mattered to them that previous governments had been ignoring. And so we've been systematically addressing issues that were part of our platform, as well as addressing the issues that emerged before us. That's what governments do. I have regrets. I have issues that I'm very, very proud of, and there'll be plenty of time to talk about that down the road. Today, I wanted to put the speculation to rest about my future and get back to talking about British Columbians and their needs. That's why I do this, and that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow.
Next question is from Binder Sajan, CTV.
Hi, Premier. Political observers often say that you are the biggest asset that the party has. How worried are you that by, stepping away, that you may leave the party at a disadvantage? And is that sort of, your popularity, so to speak, is that why you decided to stay on as Premier until a new leader is chosen?
Well, a couple of questions there, Binder. Firstly, I believe that our government has had success because we've been focusing on the issues that matter to people. We've been responsive. We've brought our values, which I believe are mainstream values. I've said BC's filled with New Democrats. They just don't know it yet. And the more people see a compassionate and competent group of people addressing issues as they emerge, they'll continue to support that. It's never been, I don't subscribe to leadership politics. I subscribe to collective activity, cabinet government, people working together. We have our debates inside the room, and then we come out saying we are of one mind, and sometimes you get it wrong. That was evidenced by events over the past 40, 50 days. But that doesn't change the fact that the public will respond at the next election to the values of the candidates and the principles that they bring forward, and also their track record and the contrast between a new leader for our team and the other teams will be there for the public to make their decisions. For me, I'm anxious to get back to work tomorrow, particularly leading into the Council of the Federation meetings in Victoria, and we can make the progress on healthcare that we absolutely have to do if we're going to meet the challenges of the next number of years.
Follow-up, Binder?
Yes, and Premier, sorry, that was my attempt at doing a Richard Zuzman question, but just
It's now called the maneuver. I like that best of all, the Zuzman maneuver.
I'm just wondering also, over the last 5 years, is it even possible to pick out one particular highlight and maybe a low light, something that you wish you had the opportunity to do differently?
I think there'll be plenty of time to talk about that down the road. I'm of the view that I'm still working. It's not time to reflect or victory lap or lament. It's time to continue to have my sleeves rolled up and focusing on the work that we've just been doing here for the past 2 days, making sure that we've got a basket of initiatives to help with affordability, continue to try and address the challenges that are before us. We all know what they are. The public knows what they are, and that's my focus. There'll be plenty of time to deal with the highs and the lows. That's not what I want to do today.
Katie DeRosa, Vancouver Sun.
Hi, Premier. Just in terms of the timing with the Council of the Federation coming up, you've talked a lot about the need for increased federal health transfers. Will this announcement now take some of the strength from your argument out if you're, if it's known that you're going to be retiring imminently?
Not at all, Katie. The power of our argument is that the federal government used to be a 50% partner in the delivery of healthcare services by funding those services through the Canada Health Transfer. This sounds like accounting to people who are not familiar with it, but the balance has gone from 50-50 to 78% of funding provided by the province and only 22% provided by the federal government. And I'll remind people, they know this already, that Ottawa doesn't get different taxes. They get taxes and revenues from Canadians, wherever they may live. And this is not a John Horgan issue, it's a Canadian issue. And we have 13 premiers of provinces and territories that have been on the same page for the 5 years I've been here. The participants at the table have changed through election and through resignation, but the issue has always been there, and it's high time we get it addressed. So it's never been about me, it's never been about British Columbia, it's been about Canada and all of us working together. The Prime Minister committed to me that his team would be there to have that conversation and to make progress, and I'm going to hold them to that.
Katie, do you have a follow-up?
There were times where you spoke off the cuff. Obviously, you joked about the need for Irish Spring during the F-bomb, and you were quite also candid about certain things going off your speaking notes. Do you think that was a sign that you were, I guess, a bit jaded with the political game, or becoming a little bit exhausted by the back and forth in question period? Like, how would you characterize how you were enjoying the job in the last few months?
Well, obviously, I enjoy more different parts of the job differently, and I've given as good as I've got in the back and forth of partisanship. But I do have to confess that I have always been more interested in big problems and how can we solve them. Before I got involved in politics, I was working in government. I was enamored with the notion of us taking our collective energy, people from different walks of life, different parts of the province or the country, and trying to find solutions. That's what's motivated me from the beginning. I stood for office in 2005, not so that I could have partisan jousts with anyone. It was because I wanted to make a difference, and I continue to want to do that. Speaking off the cuff is not something that's just happened recently for me, and I know that there are my friends who are not political. I have many of those, and I think that's been my salvation. They know that I speak my mind, and sometimes there's consequences to that are not necessarily politically advantageous, but it doesn't change who I am and how I feel about things, and I try my best to be straightforward and candid. That's how I was raised, and that's how I've lived my life, and I'm going to continue doing that after today. Why I'm here is I wanted to stop the speculation so we could get back to the real issues, which are the needs of British Columbians.
Les Lane, Times columnist.
Oh, thanks. Congratulations, Premier. You've got maybe, 4 months left as leader. Is there anything, apart from the never-ending argument about federal healthcare funding, is there anything at the top of your to-do list? Is there something you want to get done before you bow
Again, that'll probably be apparent over the next number of months, Les. What I am singularly focused on, quite frankly, we've just come out of our cabinet retreat. Our caucus met, as I said, last week. These issues I've been talking about them in my regular availabilities for some time. Affordability, not just housing affordability, which is a profound challenge, but just the impact of inflation. It's a global phenomenon, and British Columbia is not immune to it. So I'm going to continue to address the issues as they emerge, which has always been, in my view, the primary objective of government, to make sure you get in front of issues as they're emerging so the public can have confidence that we have their back as we go, we being government. So I don't have a list of things to do. I should say that I had a great time in my community of Souk. We're successful with a Canada Infrastructure Grant to build a lacrosse box in the Sun River community in Souk. So I was out throwing a ball around with some kids and some Victoria Shamrocks that were out. So I want to engage with my community, Les. That's what I want to do. I got involved because I love where I live and the people that live there, and I want to spend more time with them because I've been focused on the province. So once a leader is selected, I'm going to continue on as a member of the legislature, and so I can connect with the people in my great community.
Les, do you have a follow-up?
I know you're sick of these health questions, but the fatigue that you've cited a few times in the last half hour, was that related to COVID, perhaps?
I have no idea, Les. I know that my oncologist, who I want the public to know, he says that it's really advantageous to be able to watch your patients on the evening news, and he wanted to assure me and British Columbians that he's not billing for watching the news. But he said that I look good, and the scan was clear. The side effects are what they are, and he's been helping me walk through that. But I don't know if COVID had an impact on that or not. I was pretty tired before I tested positive, and I didn't really notice a difference. Some people talk about losing taste. I haven't. I've lost my taste as a result of the radiation treatment. So it's difficult to say. And no one's really tried to parse it out, Les. I get tired and I come home and I fall asleep. But a good indicator of making the right choice at the right time. After we came back from our couple of days away, I came out of the shower and I was going into the kitchen, and my wife said, "You're humming." And I went, "What?" I said, "You're humming. You haven't hummed in a while." So I think I'm at peace. It was a very difficult decision. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. I love this job, and I believe we're making a difference. I am making a difference with my team, but I know that my team can continue to do that without me, and so it's time to exit when the leader's picked, and I'll continue to find other ways to make a difference. I've got some time left in me. I'm feeling good enough to keep contributing. I just don't know what that contribution is going to be.
We have time for one more question. Justin McElroy, CBC.
Thank you. Hi, Premier.
Hey. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Last week, there was speculation when you made the announcement about the Royal BC Museum that it might be connected to potential announcement on your future and the idea of clearing the deck of that decision for a future leader. Was that part of the play at all? Were you considering this announcement while you were making that decision?
I was thinking about my future when I made the decision, but why I made the decision is that the Royal BC Museum is so important to all of us. It's just too important to be a political football, too important to be a laugh line. I want people to be as proud of the museum as they were before the announcement. It was and is an iconic treasure for all British Columbians, and I misstepped by thinking that the public was at the same place I was as I looked at information about the seismic issues, about the space, and about the various collections being at risk. But no, there's no connection beyond the fact. I made that decision because I love the museum, and I don't want it to be a political football. I want the people who care about it to come forward, come up with a plan, and it will be a better plan than the one we brought forward because the public has never been more aware of the museum. That's the good news. And the better news is that we have a new CEO and the volunteer board who are not partisans. They're citizens who have offered to help and have been on the board, some for a long time, some just recently appointed, it's going to be a better outcome. So my motivation on the museum had no connection to my personal views beyond the fact that I did not want it to be a political football, and I believe that was the right course, and British Columbians seem to agree with me. I was traveling this past weekend, and the number of people that came up to me and said, right thing to do, just reaffirmed that you listen to people, follow their lead, and get things done.
Justin, follow up?
Yeah, you said at the very beginning of your statement that you would be asking for a leadership election for the NDP sometime in the fall. Beyond that, are you going to give any guidance or opinion on how that should roll out, including whether any members of your party would be allowed to stay in cabinet or government if they ran?
Well, all of the rules and that are in the hands, with respect to participation, are in the hands of the party. We have a governing body, the provincial council, that will make those decisions. I will have no role in the selection of the leader. That's up to the party. But I am very confident that we have a capable group of young, dynamic leaders that are prepared to step up, and we'll just wait and see how that goes. Again, I want to reinforce, I wanted to end the speculation. I believe we've done that based on the number of people that are here. And I want to now get back to working for British Columbians for as long as I have an opportunity to do that. That's the commitment that I make today, and I wish I had more energy to do more, but I just don't. And I want to just end by, oh, I'm sorry, you got another one?
No.
That was it? Okay. Yeah. I just want to end quite often. When I became leader of the NDP 8 years ago, it was, well, nobody knows who you are. You can't possibly be successful. That turned out to be incorrect. I was successful. A lot of people know who I am. But I was in a restaurant in Penticton on my way back, and a woman came up and said, and I apologize to the other networks, but this is the way it rolled. She said, "You're on Global." And I said, "Sometimes, but not all the time." So it was a reminder that people are people. They're not thinking about politics all the time. And I want to get back to that place where I can just engage with people. I love talking to people. I went on a holiday last year to some newsworthy, it became news, but I went to Nova Scotia and nobody knew who the heck I was there. And it was just nice to, go pull up at a garage sale and talk to people and have a laugh. And it reminded me how much I love people and how much I enjoy the work. But I also am looking forward to just being me again, talking to people not as Premier of British Columbia, but just John, a guy who stopped by to make friends. And so I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, everybody, for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it.